Hello and welcome to this edition of Conversations from the A&amp network. In this episode, I speak to adoptive parent Andrea. She is Austrian and shares her experience of approval and adoption through their system. There are few adoptions in Austria and the culture and practice are markedly different. Andrea explains some of the unique challenges faced, as well as her move to raise understanding of aware parenting, an attachment-based parenting model. As always, if you've experienced of adoption, fostering or special guardianship from any perspective, personal or professional, and would like to share that on the podcast, please get in touch through the Facebook page, the app formerly known as Twitter, or you can email us at anfpodcast@gmail.com.
Hi, I'm happy to be here today. I'm Andrea Kollmann, Andrea from Austria. We are a patchwork family. So our oldest son is 17 years old, and he lives here half of the week. And our youngest son is 3 years old, nearly. In a few days, he's getting 3. And he came to our family through adoption. And that's one of the things I really want to share. How we helped him to go through his story, and what knowledge we collected as the family and our way together.
So can I ask you how you came to adopt? Why did you decide to adopt?
My husband and I, we get together a little bit later, and I already was interested in adoption as a single woman, and at this time it was possible to do that. And then we came together. We became a family with his older son, Michael, and he and me. And then there was just the adoption. I was on the adoption list. So in my area, it's about 7 years that you can adopt a child. And in Austria, it's mainly babies. So our youngest son was 1 day old when we were allowed to meet him in the hospital and to become a family physically. But I think it's happening before. And then after a while we were just
So can I ask
thinking about if we want.
Sorry,
of course.
I was going to say most of our listeners are based in the United Kingdom, and I don't know anything about adoption in Austria. So can you tell me, is it very common? How many, do a lot of children be adopted? What are the reasons for children being adopted in Austria?
So in Austria, it's that most of the adoptions, normally the adoptions are babies, and then a few others adoption possibilities, like if you have a foster child, and there is a possibility to adopt or within a family. And most of the adoptions are anonymous. I hope that I pronounced this well.
Yeah.
The birth mothers, they can go into the hospital. They have the full medical care, and they go in there anonymous. They choose a nickname, and then they give birth to the children. And then mostly, if everything is okay, they go home after a few hours, and the children stay there. And that's the most cases. That's also with our son. So maybe it's the bright side that in Austria it's not the case that there are some babies giving away to public areas where they find them, so they are really born in the hospitals. The other side is that also for us, we don't know if we ever have a chance that, the birth mother for our son will reach out and he has the chance to get to know his biological family. So that's the other side of the coin. I know there are countries who don't allow it.
Yeah.
In Austria, that's the common way of adoption.
Right.
And there are long lists, there are really long lists, waiting lists.
Is that because there's very few children who are going through adoption?
Yeah. So, because adoption is really babies who are just born, and there are couples who, for different reasons, mostly because they can't get children on their own. So there are lots of couples who are waiting. Yeah.
And for you, you said you were on the list to be an adoptive parent. And how do you get on the list? What process, what has to happen to get on the list?
Oh, from while to while it changes. When I started, I also had to do some health checks. Then you have appointments with social workers. You have to go through a training, and all in all, you have to more or less show them every document you have. Your property. They're coming and visiting you and looking at your place you're living in. They're checking your financial status. So it's really intense. And, sometimes adoptive parents say, hey, when you're getting pregnant, you can just, have can just have a child. And with us, it's so, at the end of the process, I was thinking they know what color my clothes has. It feels like, you have to show everything of your life, everything, how you're born and what you believe, what belief you have to raise children, your trauma and family, it's like everything. That's a lot.
Yeah. And then you just literally, because in the UK, there's probably more children being adopted. So there's a process of people choosing children, children who are waiting to be adopted and being chosen. But it sounds, again, because that isn't what happens with you. It is literally, are you just the next person on the list? So,
yeah.
And was it a child for you? Is that the whole of Austria? Because Austria is a fairly big country. So was it, you could go anywhere, you might have to go anywhere in Austria to collect a child?
Mainly you're just allowed to adopt in your regions. So it's the next hospital with a birth station. And then, there are maybe other chances, but more or less not. It's just in your local region that you are on the list, and they changed it. In Austria, it was different. So lots of years ago, they believed that the children had to go far away to another, that there has to be a difference. And now they say, no, it should be in the same area.
Yeah. And so do you get much notice period when there's a child due to be adopted? Are you given much time to prepare, or is it days, weeks, months?
So for us, it was I started at the beginning, as I mentioned. For me, it was, and then later for my husband, it was 7 years in total. And we got an email 2 months before the birth of our son, and they say that we are shortlisted. And that's it. And then you get a call at the same day, and then you go to the hospital.
Wow, that must be a really difficult period of time waiting. Do you get any details in terms of the child's history or their story before birth?
No. Unfortunately, fortunately, we have a letter we got a letter from the midwife where she described a little bit of the process. Nothing, of course, nothing about the birth mother of our son.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. So nothing before, nothing. We hope that there will be something after. We also wrote a letter that the birth mother of our son is welcome in our family, and we let it and at some points where he can get in contact.
So you leave the door open for that contact, but it's totally up to her whether she wants to come through.
It's totally up to her, yeah. But we were just thinking maybe if she tries to reach out, that there's something there that, that she knows that she's welcomed.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
I mean, I think that's really interesting. And one of the issues a lot of adopted adults or adult adoptees talk about is that they wanting to know about their history and their past. And I don't want to know about your son's story, but if an adopted person wanted to find out, if the birth mother doesn't want them to know, is that a closed door? Is it shut?
It's a closed door. It's a closed door.
Yeah, that feels difficult.
There is just a nickname in the documents. There's just a nickname. We didn't get anything from the birth records. Sorry. So it's a closed door.
Wow. So
and in some cases, I do understand why in some countries it's not possible to have an anonymous adoption.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of parallels with the UK, but there's also some of that feels quite different in terms of the rights of adopted children and adult adoptees. But I guess that adoption isn't that common in Austria. Do you know many other adoptive parents?
I don't have the figures. There are not really lots of statistics. But, in our area, it's 5 or 6 children a year. So maybe, I don't know, 50, 60 in Austria a year. As children, babies.
Yeah.
Something like that. It's not that common, no.
No, and as I say, I don't know much about the system, but that sort of rings true with what I understand. So coming back to your story, you then bring this little person home, this little baby. It must have been quite a shock to you to be a new parent. What was it like bringing this little person home, or even meeting this little child?
When I think about it, there are some tears rolling down my face. It's we saw him, so we got a call 4 hours later. We were in the car. We went to the hospital, and we saw him, and there was no chance for us to look away. To look away. It was like, I don't know. It was, then I was allowed to hold him in my arms, and I was looking at him, and it was like, a universe. You're just looking at it, and it always changes. It was like something so new, so unbelievable, with so much love pouring out of my heart. It was really kind of romantic, and and I really could I really could feel how the bonding hormones were going into my body. So for us, it was unbelievable. It was really unbelievable. And then your parents, yeah. And I think you are before, some kind you are before, you know. I did wrote to our son when we knew that we were shortlisted, and I was already talking to him. Maybe it's romantic, but I think, you know, that in some kind, you know, our souls didn't know each other before or something like that. And
So it sounds like a remarkable experience, and especially with him being so young and so vulnerable, that hard not to kind of have that instant connection with this little person.
Yeah, you know, in the trainings they say that you know, there was a social worker beside, and they say that the social worker will ask you after some time if you believe that, you know, if it feels right for you.
Yeah.
And she didn't ask it, but you know, this wasn't a question. This question was not in the room because it was just, and it was like we meant to be together. I know it sounds romantic, but it was like that for us.
Yeah. So when you emailed me, you were talking about you touched upon some of the process and your experience, but you also talked about the support that is there or not there for adoptive parents in Austria. So can you tell me a little bit about then, you know, you go home, and what support had you hoped for, or what support have you been looking for?
Yeah, so in Austria, it's that, you know, there is a 6 months waiting period, then you are allowed to go to the court and to get legal parents. So for us it was 8.5 months. The process that we you know were in his parents, you know, his legal parents, and in this time you have one appointment with a social worker where she looks if everything is fine as a family, and then that's it. And there is no one, you know, helping you through this long period where, you know, where you don't know if you are staying his parents or not.
Right.
And after that, it is you are his legal parents, so the government is kind of off, and that's it. And what we discovered is that, you know, after such a long period and after being his legal parents, you know, and there was just always this big goal that we wanted to expand our family, and that we want to have a baby, you know. For us, completely this goal completely changed from wanting to expand the family, wanting to adopt a child, to want to support him with his story and what he had to go through. And we believe that, you know, that if you are separated from a birth mother, and that's in the history, and that's a part of the story of our child, you have a separation trauma or a big stress event, at least, you know. And there was nobody there, you know, giving us an answer how to, you know, how to support him with emotionally.
Yeah.
And even when we started to be adoptive parents, there was no network. In the meantime, my husband and I, we also founded a self-care group for adoptive parents. And that's the point where what we believe is very important, that we as adoptive parents, we have the knowledge to know how we can support our children with their story. And that's what what we are passionate about it, to talk about that. And, and we are really we were happy about it when Theodore was 1 year old. We started to search, what's the right way for us, and through some circumstances we discovered aware parenting. Aware parenting is a trauma and stress parenting approach, who knows about how to be with a child who had a trauma or a big stress in his past. And now we are working with these methods, and we as parents, we do that in our day-to-day life, but it's really important. But we believe that, this knowledge is out there. And what we are doing is there are 3 big steps. One is attachment style parenting. For example, for us, one of the biggest things is that that we are co-sleeping. That's one point we found out, that's really one thing that it's really important to have to support the bonding. And what I also do is that to say when you wake up in the morning is one of the big changes, where I go from the unconscious to the conscious. And when you going through this process, this is a point where you touch your birth. And for our son, when he was born, he was at the same point separated from his birth mother. So for me, it's really important that every day he wakes up, I'm there.
Yeah.
And so every day he kind of also gets in this, he kind of touching his birth story. I'm there, he's not alone. And I see, especially now where his birthday is coming up. So birthday is also a connection to birth. There are really big feelings coming up when he's waking up in the morning, for example. That's one point. Another point for us is what is really important is that there are lots of attachment play possibilities, where in a playful way you are nourishing our children. And on the one hand, and the other hand, they can play and kind of playing. One of this attachment play we are doing nearly every day is separation games, where they can play the children with, with the separation and how that feels. And what is also very important, I think, for all children who have a separation in their story, that when you are doing the separation plays, that this is quasi the first step is that the child goes away or you go away, and then it's that separation, okay? And then you can see how long they can stand it, and they can stand it longer, okay, they can hold the feeling of separation. So for our son, it was really that he can just, it was a few seconds, and then it got a little bit longer and longer. And then when you reunion, that, that they see how joyful you are and, how happy you are about it, that they get a new experience, that when I'm separated and I'm reunited, that, that there is someone who is happy to see me and who is welcoming me.
And I mean, all of those things are really specific and but make really good sense. So are those not things that, you know, that you were told by a social worker? Was that just something that you've had to literally go and find yourself? What are other parents saying? Adoptive parents?
Um, yes, we had to find out for ourselves. So we had a one session with a baby coach, which someone recommended us, and it was all, you know, because we wanted to know. So in the first, our first impression was, you know, when we have the knowledge, and we are as parents that we are, you know, feel secure with this topic, then we can be, you know, our son feels this that, you know, that we are secure and that he feels more grounded with it. And yeah, and this baby coach, he also, one point I haven't mentioned yet, you know, it's also that another puzzle is that it's very important, or another piece is it's important, especially for small children, you know, where they cannot talk about it. There's no conscious talking about it possible, and even in later times, because, you know, the separation was, you know, in an unconscious period of the time. It's to talk about it. I think it's not that easy at all, or maybe not really possible at all. That, you know, that you listen to them, and, you know, small children, babies express through crying, and that's what we did. You know, you kind of you kind of see if he has any needs for food, for closeness, for warmth, for whatever, and if he has not, and you see that there are something maybe happened, because in the morning when he wakes up, you know, and I know he's totally fine, that I'm listening to him and then holding him and they say, I'm here, I'm listening. Tell me everything. You know, we just listen. And yeah, that's the piece we got from the baby coach. And then he mentioned a book. It was about our parenting from Herzenseltern, this trauma and stress based philosophy. And yeah.
Have you found people happy to hear this, or are people kind of suspicious and think that you're maybe being too? Do you need to just treat him like another child, or that you're being too sensitive or soft, or are people suspicious of this sort of model of parenting, or do people like it?
Do you mean adoptive or foster parents, or do you mean in general?
Well, both really. I would imagine that adoptive parents might be a bit more open to it, but what about from parents in general? What do people think of you?
That's not an easy approach to bring into the world, because there are some points in it which is, it's not common yet, you know, that you listen to a baby, what he has to say to you, what he tells you, you know, like his feelings. That's not common.
Yeah.
But we did it for lots of hours, and, you know, and I was crying. There were lots of points where I was crying with him, you know, because I could feel it. But he told us a lot of it, not all yet, but a lot of it. And, you know, and we could see how his behavior changed. And that's also very important, you know, because we, for example, we didn't understand at the beginning that he was, that his bonding wasn't that strong. For example, one of the things he showed it to us was when we were under a group of people, and he was little, 1 year, something like that. He would go from from one to the other without, crying or complaining. And, in this society, I completely get it. Yeah, they say, "Oh, he's such a lovely boy. He's so easygoing and whatever." But what he really showed us that, that he kind of lost the connection to us. He lost his space, And, after doing all the different kinds of attachment playing, listening to his feelings, doing attachment parenting, co-sleeping, we could see how that changed, how the connection went back to us. And even when we now in public and there are more people, he holds it, or another really main or common thing is that 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 they're kind of really active, but it's more, it's overactive, like that they don't slow down, and they try not to come to their feelings, not to touch to their feelings, and that's also something we discovered, when it's that there was lots of tension in his body, and he was always having some action and there and there and there. And then slowly he could relax more. And even, I was carrying him a lot when he was a baby, really loud. And, even, the kind of, he was, we were touching, there were mostly, it was like, from him that he really was clingy, and he kind of like, he was holding his, don't go away, and it took really long time. It's just, we're working with this approach for nearly 2 years now, that, there is another quality in our bonding, in our physical contact. Now it's more that he can also let go, and that he can lean on me, and that he really can let go. And, there's so much little signs where you can see where they are at the moment. And society, it was not easy, but, Corona helped us a little bit, you're kind of in your own cocoon and you do your stuff. And that's what we did. We really created our cocoon as family, and we went through this period of time where at the beginning it was really dense, lots of crying. He showed lots of feeling, and we were just, be there, and we were not planning actions. We were planning soul time or family time, just to be at home, that we can carry him with his feelings.
So you now, you mentioned in your email that you kind of, your passion is to help other adoptive parents. So have you started to do that? Are you sort of are you speaking to new adoptive parents in Austria and sort of supporting them? And are you creating an organization, or are you just doing it informally as a friend?
We built the self-care group for adoptive parents, my husband and I. And so it's also online. If someone speaks German and wants to share his story with us, it's Herzenseltern AD, so this is German now. So it's heartparents.at. And we so for people who want to adopt the children, we go there as adoptive parents. We talk about our stories. I have in the future there will trainings coming up. I'm now connected to an adoptee who is coaching adoptees in Germany, and we will work together, because I think that of course, it's adoptive parents is a whole nother role than being an adopted child or a birth mother. But I think it's so important that that we, and thank you for your work, that we speak about adoption, that that we bring more understanding and light into this topic, because I was, there was some time where I was thinking, hey, why is there not more people around asking how can we support our children, or saying to the government, help us? Why is there no supporting team? Why is there no connection? So we are the first self-care group in Austria for adoptive parents, for example. And I think because there is, it's this triangle of three people, the adoptive parents, the adoptee, and the birth. I would say mainly the birth mother. I think that there is so much shame there, from every side, and that's why so in Austria it's still, I'm really missing initiatives where we are just speaking out, we are sharing our stories, we help each other, we are meeting as adoptive families, that our children can spend time together, things like that.
That's wonderful, and it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you and sort of have a window into a very different way of approaching adoption, but also I think there's lots of things that you've said that a lot of parents in the UK and probably further afield will think, I wish I'd sort of cared for my child in those first years in that way. I think I can think about one of my children where I think if we'd perhaps done things a bit differently, that connection would have been so much more secure for them as they were growing up. So I think a lot of people will be really interested. So you talked about aware parenting, and I'll put links to the podcast in the podcast for that. But also, if you could give me the link of your support group, that would be really helpful, because I do know that we do have at least one German-speaking listener, so we can get them. They probably want to pop along.
Yeah, and if I can give you my link as well. So I'm also working with adoptive parents to show them how to support our children. That would be great.
That would be wonderful, and I think people would really appreciate that. So thank you so much, Andrea, and wish you well.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for your work.